President Murthy, Rotarians, Rotarians, uh, guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a privilege to address the illustrious members of the Rotary Club of Cochin, amongst whom I see innumerable luminaries, economists, stock market experts, chocolate distributors, former shippies, all at the pinnacle of their careers. So the privilege is compounded by pleasure this evening. Economics, they say, is a dismal science, prone to the extended use of statistics. But as one great statesman said, lies, damn lies and statistics. I would much rather go behind the statistics. President Murthy asked me to speak about the prospects for the Indian economy. He also asked me to touch upon the impact of the Standard & Poor downgrade and what it can do to the economy. But I thought I'd make it a little more broad, a kind of an eclectic view of what's happening in the economy, and perhaps we could have a dialogue at the end of it with the President's permission. The use of mathematics is highly intense in economics, and this discipline has got so closely merged with various other disciplines that it's very difficult to make out where one stops and the other starts. Paul Krugman, who won the Nobel Prize for Economics a few years ago, actually won his Nobel Prize for educating people about economics. And he took economics out of the arcane textbooks and research practices and made it intelligible to the general members of the public. And for that yeoman service, primarily, he was awarded the Nobel Prize. That tells you how economics has changed and how economics has evolved over the last 60 odd years. So today, economics is a confluence of mathematics, statistics, science, technology, information technology, and most important of all, psychology, not to mention evolutionary biology, and all kinds of disciplines. So that which is true for economics, I think, is also true for every other discipline today. I think the walls between industries and particular subject areas are all slowly but surely melting away. In some cases, the walls are disappearing overnight. In some other cases, the walls are disappearing at a slightly slower and more sedate pace. But this insight was with our rishis and sages thousands of years ago. It was Shankaracharya who said, Apara Vidya Avidya. What he meant was, all knowledge that is not to do with spirituality and with the Brahman is actually ignorance. It's not knowledge at all. He was pointing to the essential unity of everything that happens in this universe. And in fact, the discovery of the God particle, the Higgs boson, just a few weeks ago, is testimony to the fact that what's out there is actually what's in here. And the small particle, the boson, Higgs boson, actually eliminates the difference between living and non-living parts of this world. So there's no real difference between what is living and non-living. So it's actually one unitary experience in today's world that we all should look at. And I speak from that perspective. First, let me just talk a little bit about the Standard & Poor downgrade. Standard & Poor maintained India's credit rating at BBB minus, but said, which is the lowest investment grade rating, but said that there was a 1 in 3 chance that it could be downgraded to junk status over the next 2 years if the if the external position continues to deteriorate, growth prospects diminish, or progress on fiscal reforms slow in a weakened political setting. So right there you see the interplay between sociology, economics, politics, and psychology, right there in the Standard & Poor formulation. But the important thing to remember is that they have not changed the rating. They have changed the outlook on the rating. The rating remains at BBB minus, which is the lowest investment grade rating. Just a few days ago, they have issued a warning that the rating can actually be changed to junk status. In other words, Standard & Poor actually said that India could be the first of the fallen brick angels, which means that if the rating is changed and India is bumped off the investment grade, then India's sovereign credit rating would be on junk bonds, on par with junk bonds. In which case, what is the implication? The implication is that foreign institutional investors will find it extremely difficult to invest in the Indian markets, in the capital markets, because they have a mandate not to invest in junk bond par rated entities. And that is a very significant thing that could take out a huge chunk of the volatile investments in the Indian stock markets, in the capital markets, and it could play havoc with our evolving capital markets. That, I think, is the main implication. But having said all that, I would not ascribe too much of an importance to the Standard & Poor methodology. In fact, Standard & Poor says that their BBB minus rating is an unsolicited category. I mean, India is an unsolicited rating that they have produced. In other words, we have not asked to be rated. So if we have not asked to be rated, that tells us that we have a lot of intrinsic strength in our economy. And I think while Standard & Poor's rating should be kept as a wake-up call, we have to see the whole economy from a larger perspective. India's GDP today is approximately 1.4 trillion, one of the largest economies in the world. It's also one of the fastest growing economies in the world, despite the fact that the growth rate has plummeted in the last couple of years. When I was studying economics, we were told about the Hindu rate of growth, which is 3%. And we studied economics in India under the very tight foreign exchange control dispensation, where foreign exchange was the ultimate aspiration of every Indian, earning foreign exchange. But 3% is far cry today. Over the last 8 or 9 years, we have grown at a very rapid clip. 7%, 8%, 10%. The cumulative average growth rate is around 8%, I think, over the last 7 or 8 years. And when we talk about slowing, we are talking about slowing in the rate of growth of the GDP. A lot of people confuse this with a reduction in the size of the economy. They say the economy is becoming smaller. That's not true. Technically, when the GDP contracts, that's called a recession. But when the rate of growth in the economy slows, that's a very different ballgame from a recession. That's the difference between India and the rest of the world. In many cases, economies are actually shrinking. Many countries in Europe are actually shrinking. The US is in danger of a full-blown recession in the next 12 to 16 months, which means actually a contraction in the GDP. There is no such danger, at least in the immediate future, as far as India is concerned. The rate of growth is slowing down. For the year ended March 12, there are contrasting views on the rate of growth. Today's paper says the IMF has pared down the growth to 5.1 or so percent, and IMF's forecast for next year is going to be something, Indian economy is going to grow at something like 5.5%. The government, of course, is very bullish and feels that the economy will grow at something like 6 or 6.5%. So the truth lies somewhere in between. In any case, the economy is going to grow. It may grow at 5% or 5.5%. And that's on a base of $1.4 trillion, which is the GDP. Today, the Indian foreign trade scenario is a little worrisome because we are sitting on a trade deficit of something like $185 billion. And trade deficit is basically the difference between exports and imports. Imports are far more than exports. And guess what is one of the main reasons for the trade deficit being $185 billion, which is almost like 40, I think 50% over the previous year. The main culprit, that there are two main culprits for this. One is oil imports and the other is the import of gold, which Krishna and Gopi and Venu and all have bought in the last year. Because the prices of gold have gone up and huge stocks of gold have come into the country. And you and I know how much gold there is sitting in our respective lockers. And that has added to the trade deficit. Exports haven't grown that much because many of the importing countries are facing severe economic problems, and so the demand has contracted. But the interesting thing there is that the pattern of India's export